Hi, I'm Mark Lane, and welcome to this edition of Student Interviews 101. I'm joined with Sam Jones, host of Green Country Perspectives. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure, Mark.
So, how long have you been hosting Perspectives?
We're into our second year now, year and a half.
And what was it that hooked you into becoming the host of Perspectives?
Well, it's ironic you use that phrase, hooked, because I was at a point in my life where I said, no more. I'm walking away from the biz. You know, I'm at an age where I can relax a little bit. And I was trying to kill off as many trout as I could. And I got the call, would I be interested in working with Rogers State, which I've always had, you know, a great deal of respect for the school and the people who are here. And I thought, yeah, let's give it a shot. And the rest is, as they say, history.
So right when you thought you were out, they pulled you back in.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the most interesting interview that you've done on RSU Public TV?
I would say, without any hesitation, it has to be a lady that we brought in who was a Rosie the Riveter that recounted her days. She was from Kansas. She lives in Tulsa, and absolutely wonderful memory. Talked about World War II, how she and her husband were married just at the start of the war. He went off to fight. She stayed home. She ended up working with one of the aircraft manufacturing plants on the Flying Fortress bombers, and was a riveter for years, and then became a line supervisor. The mood of the country was so much different then than it is now. Mm-hmm. And to be able to turn the pages of history through her eyes was, I tell you what, it was a rare treat for me. So I think that one would be probably the standout.
But notice how I said on RSU Public TV, you're a veteran in the green country media.
Dinosaur.
How did it all begin for you? Is there creation story?
Well, there is an evolution story. It started right out of college. I went to work for a radio station as a fluke.
A radio station?
A radio station. And my first love was and remains radio for so many different reasons. The history of this country, in terms of broadcasting, rests firmly on the shoulders of the broadcast industry. Mm-hmm. Television is a wonderful medium, don't misunderstand me. But radio required you to be able to turn the speakers at home into a picture.
Right.
You had
like
to be able, exactly, you had to be able to describe or write with such creativity so that the person at home could see it in their mind's eye. And I had the opportunity to work with some veterans, men and women who were much older than myself, who had seen the days of Ed Murrow and Will Rogers and the like, and knew exactly what that day was like. Now, I'm not talking about border blasters, the flamethrowers that existed in Mexico many years ago, where they had 1 million, 2 million watts of power, broadcasting, you know, Lord knows where. I'm talking about the days from the late 20s, early 30s, where radio became everybody's companion. Mm-hmm. And where even the President of the United States recognized the importance of fireside chats, for example.
FDR, that's
yeah.
Right.
So I started in radio, worked in radio for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, until the knock came, would you like to try television? And I said, well, sure, you know, why not? So,
right, because it's important to be versatile in the media. But it's so interesting that you got your start in radio, because I'm trying to get my start in the media through radio as well. But another thing that I feel like we share is I'm from Arkansas, and you got your television start in Arkansas at KTHV. Now, this was in the late 70s, early 80s. back when you had political actors like Clinton, Fulbright, Hammerschmidt, Bumpers. What was that like for you at that time?
Well, let me back up just a little bit. I really got my start at KATV, Channel 7, which was the ABC affiliate owned by Jimmy Lake, who also owns Channel 8 in Tulsa, or did at the time. And I worked there. It really wasn't a television job, even though I was in television. I was master control audio, and that's what I did for about a year. And then realized there had to be life on the other side of the camera. Across the street to Channel 11 was in front of the camera. At the time, we had Win Rockefeller as governor. We had the three most powerful men in Congress were from Arkansas. And I got to tell you something, I saw activities there politically I haven't seen since. I remember the day very clearly when Lyndon Johnson flew to Little Rock trying to find Wilbur Mills. Wilbur Mills was in charge of the House Ways and Means Committee and couldn't find him because Mills didn't want to be found. He was trying to make a point with Lyndon Johnson, and he made it. And after Johnson was such a buttonhole politician, he'd grab you by the buttonhole of your lapel and put his finger in your chest.
I've seen the photos.
But he couldn't get his hands on Wilbur. I mean, Wilbur just hid. Bill Fulbright knew where he was. John McClellan knew where he was, but nobody was talking. You know, and it was kind of an interesting show, a dog and pony show. So Johnson flew back to Washington. Mills came out of hiding, and by phone they got together and sorted things out. But it was an interesting time. I was there when Orville Faubus was governor.
You were?
And I got to interview Faubus several times, one-on-one. I saw things evolve from Faubus that were astounding in the desegregation case, things that I would not have believed. I still have a lot of his things on 16mm film that I've saved over the years. And one sidebar to that, anytime Faubus was in trouble, he'd open a news conference by saying he'd been out under the Farkleberry bush. Now that was a non-existent bush. You're from Arkansas, you know that. But it would kind of put everybody at ease, and he was a master politician. Even though he created such problems. And Bill Green, who was a member of the Little Rock Nine, told me once, he said, you know, of all the politicians we've ever locked horns with, you got to give Orville Faubus his due. He knows how to work an audience.
Sam, the media is changing every day. Are there any universal truths you can impart on a cadet like me?
Sure. Study writing. Read everything you can get your hands on. Learn to write. It's critical.
Sam Jones, this is Mark Lane for Student Interviews 101.
Death was all around. Something that you'll never forget and will always live with you.
With over 250 correspondents, we're always close to the story. BBC World.
Tonight at 10 on RSU Public TV.